I have a couple of questions for Bob. Um, my questions for him begin with how do you think research can help school leaders and policymakers better understand the value of STEAM education?
Great question, Sharon. And I'm going to start where you actually left off, which is your job, which is getting the resources and the funding,
Yeah.
which always comes down to convincing people that something is worth doing. And in this case, we have a whole bunch of different stakeholders. We have the students themselves, what's good for them, what actually works. We just saw from the one of the presentations by one of the keynoters that some of the things that are available don't work. Some work a lot better. That's where the research comes in and telling you what you should be actually using, what lesson plans work, what resources actually work and are worth investing in. We have parents. Parents can really make things change in a school if you can convince them that something's worth doing. A lot of them value arts much more than, unfortunately, the funding systems do. So if you can get the parents on board, then research can help there. And clearly, if you're going for grants, we have to justify what we're doing. So again, having the right kind of research can justify all that as well.
Oh, that was some great information. What do you think people misunderstand about science and creativity?
Well, a lot of people seem to think that science is not creative, and certainly the way it's taught in many places, it's not very creative. There's one answer and there's one way to get there.
Mm.
But as a working scientist, I can tell you that's not what working science is like. There's always multiple ways of getting to an answer. Even when there is one answer, there's always many ways of showing it. For example, that terrible thing which we call the periodic table actually has 450 different versions, all of which are perfectly valid and look completely different from each other. So from an artistic perspective, a patterning perspective, a design perspective, there are, literally 450 valid ways that you can show the answer. And I think one of the things we have to understand is all of science is like that. Every Nobel Prize winner has said that when they reach an answer, they always go and try and find how many other ways can they get to that answer. And arts do that naturally. This is, the arts have to find their own problems. The artists have to get their resources, put them together, come up with an answer, and usually they do it many different times in many different ways. So it's really good skill.
So my third question is, what do you think the sciences can learn from the arts trial and error approach to teaching, as you were just kind of sharing?
Yeah, so that actually follows directly from what I was saying. So one of the wonderful things about artists is they actually make things and do things. A lot of science education is pretty passive.
Mhm.
We give people set problems with known answers. You never do that in the arts. You may learn certain skills by copying and so forth, but the object is always to come up with something that's unique in your own and to do it in your own way. So you have to come up with your own problems in the arts, which is something which a working scientist has to learn how to do. And standard science education doesn't do a very good job of that. And then there are those multiple ways of getting different things, getting to different products and so forth, which arts, by working in an actual, hands-on situation, do all the time. So I think that's a great way of doing it. And then finally, there's just the whole design process of what are the resources that you've got, what are the constraints that you're working with, and so forth, which artists work with all the time. Engineers to some extent, but often with only one goal in mind. And scientists very little because our science education doesn't really allow the science students to do much on their own.
Those were some really, really valid questions, and I can appreciate everything that you're saying. And I like what you just shared because a lot of times as an administrator, I definitely need the research to help me with what I'm trying to propose to help
Yeah.
create the culture that we're trying to get. That was very insightful. Thank you so much for sharing.
One final thing, actually, which I wanted to just share with everybody, I only take students in my laboratory who actually come out of the arts or music. And one of the reasons I do that is they have manipulative skills and an understanding that you have to do things over and over and over again to get good at them, which again is something the arts are really good at training.
Well, thank you so much for the time you shared with us today.
Thank you.